Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and very warm good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for being here. On behalf of the Institute of Policy Studies, Islamabad, I welcome you all, those who have joined in person as well as those who are online. As we all know that since October 7, 2023, the world has witnessed one of the most devastating chapters in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This chapter is marked with unprecedented cost of human catastrophe as tens of thousands of Palestinians, mostly civilians, have lost their lives. Moreover, homes, schools, and hospitals have been destroyed, as a result of which more than 2 million people have been displaced. On top of this, severe restrictions on food and medicine have pushed Gaza to the brink of a man made famine, creating a humanitarian crisis without parallel in recent memory. Beyond Gaza, the conflict has affected the region as well. While the West Bank has faced deadly raids and mass arrests, tension in the Middle East have risked the regional peace. Internationally, the Israeli violence has sparked debates on human rights and accountability, while the Israeli allies, mainly the USA, continue to back its actions. There is a visible shift in people's conscience around the world. One such shift is the decision of various Western countries, including the UK, Canada, Australia, and recently France, to recognize Palestine's statehood. With this brief overview, let us now turn to our speakers of today's seminar. We are joined by Ambassador Syed Abrar Hussain, Vice Chairman, Institute of Policy Studies. As a keynote speaker, we have Ambassador Naila Chauhan, who has represented Pakistan in different capacities during her diplomatic career. Then we have Ambassador Nasrullah Khan Sahib, who has also represented Pakistan in various capacities. To formally begin the proceedings for today's seminar, I would request Ambassador Naila to give her key insights. Ma'am, please.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ambassador Syed Abrar Hussain, Ambassador Nasrullah Khan, Institute of Policy Studies, distinguished participants, Waleed, who has been working hard on this. Thank you so much for giving me this privilege to share a few thoughts.
Sorry for my intervention, man. हम IPS में bilingual है, so anyone can speak in Urdu as well. So we do have foreign friends, by the way.
So I'll continue in English, and if anybody has a question, we can do that in whatever language you wish to have. So, Ambassador Abrar, thank you so much for giving me this privilege. I was thinking of the topic. The topic I've given is continued Israeli aggression, 2 years of genocide in Gaza. So I was thinking, aggression is one thing, genocide is another. So are we talking about aggression? Are we talking about genocide? Sounds rather paradoxical. So if you look at it, I thought that it's good to first think about how we talk about this issue, because it also shows what is your orientation, how you look at it. Because if you look at it from Israeli media, they call it Iron Swords War, or they call it Simchat Torah War, because it started on the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah. And it's also reminiscent of Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur, again, was a religious event for the Jews. So you do see an undercurrent there. When you look at the Palestinian side, how do they address this issue? They refer to it as Battle of Al-Aqsa Flood, in reference to Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. Then certain Western media, they call it Israeli-Hamas war, as though the war is specific to Hamas. But actually, on the ground, I think Hamas is only a pretext. And we have to look on to how Hamas was created. How did they become a power? So different people address this issue, this crisis, this tragedy in different ways. Some call it war on Gaza, some call it October 7 war, some call it Gaza genocide, some call it second Nakba, Nakba 2025. So each of these titles, because you're all researchers here, so I would like you to think about how we address the issue, because when we address the issue, that's when you are speaking your mind on how you look at it. So you have to be very careful. And when you listen about it, you also have to be careful, because that will give you an orientation of who your speaker is and what is the orientation of the speaker. Because we are all here as analysts, as students of international relations. I don't claim any expertise. I'm just here as a friend sharing thoughts. So, when we talk about the base, what is the base? The origin of Zionism, the migration of Jews settlers to Palestine in 1947, the UN partition plan, tripartite, division of the territory with international corpus separating for Jerusalem. It gives you roots and understanding of what is happening today. If you look at 1948 Palestine war, if you call it so, 700,000 Palestinians fled, and the state of Israel was established. Palestine, with the exception of two separate territories, one was West Bank, the other was Gaza Strip. The West Bank was controlled by Jordan, and Gaza Strip with Egypt. And that's how the roots of the issue started evolving. Then came the 1967 Six-Day War, occupying Palestine territory of West Bank and Gaza Strip by Israel. This was something they had not, according to the UN, they had not expected. So obviously there was a reaction. And it was the first Intifada. The first Intifada came in 1987. And then West Bank continued to be controlled by PLO. But in 2000, ended in Israeli withdrawal from, they occupied Gaza, and then in 2005, they withdrew. Then in 2007, Hamas took over. So my question to you was, how do we look at Hamas? Who were Hamas? How were they created? And what was the role they were expected to play? And in my little understanding, I think the basic problem was divide. Divide the Palestinians first. Divide the Arabs first. Israel could not make all those, expanses if Palestine was united. So Hamas, it was seen as partly Shia, partly militant, but they won the elections also. So they were also a political force with militant arm. Now, the whole concept then becomes convoluted because what are we looking at? I'm not going back into the history of Palestine because that's a lot of, you know, history to cover. It's an ancient civilization. It's gone through a lot of ups and downs and lots of tragedies and lots of killings. But I'm talking about in the contemporary world. Contemporary world means post World War II. So, what happened? Israel withdrew. But then, when Hamas took over in 2007, with Israeli, I would say, how would you say, Ambassador Saab, soft support, connivance, whatever word you want to use. But obviously, they had tasted support of Israel as well. But I was wondering, did they realize that they were being used as a pawn? I'm not quite sure about it because they became vocal, they became a dominant force. Palestinians started getting divided in many groups. So PLO was only one group, there were many others. And the more they were, the less united they were. And the less united they were, the weaker they were. So they could not stand up and take a position, defend their, lands the way they could have or should have. And then Israel started using activities of Hamas as a security threat. And for the sake of security, they started expanding. It became a justification. On the other hand, if you look at Iran, we had spoken in our last program on Iran also. Iran, after 1979, how they evolved, how their defense forces evolved, we spoke about it. How IRGC evolved. And Iran thought that perhaps making more expenditure on proxies will prevent them from direct confrontation. So a lot of investments were also coming on the proxies, including Hamas. But Israel started killing under the justification of right to defend themselves, self-defense. The interesting part is that an aggressor cannot be defensive. The victim can be defensive. But it's interesting that the aggressor calls himself making all this aggression under self-defense, which is paradoxical. And they started inflicting collective punishment. 81% in Palestine started living under poverty line. 63% started facing food security and started becoming dependent on foreign aid. Humanitarian crisis became unimaginable. It grew so much. So we are focusing on these last 2 years, starting from 7th October 2023 to date. So I'm going to focus on that, but I thought a little bit of background on how we see the evolution of the problem from 1917 of Balfour Declaration and then establishment of State of Israel. The Jews believe that they have a right to have a place, a land for themselves. But at the time that the state of Israel was being planned, technically, Ethiopia should have been the best space because they had large population of Jews there. But they didn't want to go there. They wanted to be here. And therefore, the rationale, although none, was creation of the state of Israel here and how it expanded. At this moment, there is total destruction in Gaza. It is inhabitable. I'm sure you have started looking at pictures because earlier on they had total media blockade. So you weren't even getting proper, full information on what was happening on the ground. They started killing journalists, they started killing doctors, they started killing anybody who had any positive role in helping the Palestinians. At this moment, reportedly, more than 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza have been displaced. Israel even went, Israeli Electric Corporation, which was the main supplier of electricity to almost 80% of the population there, cut off the power lines. So whether it was winter or whether it was summer, whether it was day or night, they had no electricity. They have no electricity. So they started zeroing it in. There are many human rights organizations, scholars, international lawyers, UN organizations, which have confirmed that there is a genocide taking place in Gaza, including International Court of Justice, including International Criminal Court, which issued arrest warrants against Netanyahu and his colleagues, Mr. Gallant and Mr. Dief. But I found it amusing that when the scholars on genocide stated that there is a genocide going on in Palestine, Mr. Netanyahu had a very interesting remark. He said, what they do know of genocide, committing genocide, that means he knows what committing genocide is about. The scholars only study. So, he said, what do the scholars know about genocide? Obviously, he knows what the genocide is. They don't, they've only studied it. But the audacity with which they flaunt international law, they flaunt what you call rule based order, extensive military deployments. How did they come about? It's a very small population, the Jewish population. How could they be so audacious? How could they be so vicious? They were the victims of Holocaust. One would have expected them to be more humane, having suffered the Holocaust, having suffered that brutality. One would imagine that they would be more humane and more, understanding of what it does to your dignity, your person. But they were worse than those who committed Holocaust, the kind of atrocities they are continuing to commit audaciously. So now the question rises, why are they doing it? They were given space here as an enclave in Palestine to give space to the Jews since they had no place in the world, according to them. What was Zionism about? Is Zionism all about religion? Is it politics? Is it commercial? what is the philosophy that is being implemented? How is it being defined? We need to understand that. At this moment, the kind of aggression, especially after the Doha attack, the Gaza war is expanding. It's now a regional. Earlier on, it was limited, so most of the Arab countries thought that they were not affected by it. Now they started realizing that once you set the jungle to fire, then the fire will take the jungle. Then it's not limited to one area. So they no longer could close their eyes to what was happening in Palestine. The regional repercussions of the 12-day Iran Israel war is also something that we need to take note of. How did it happen? And what were the repercussions regionally for Iran, for Palestinians, for Hamas, for Hezbollah, for all these groups? But when Israel started violating international law, international norms, audaciously, impudently, blatantly, then those who were earlier supporting the claim that they had right to defense and they had right to place also started realizing that it's much more than what Israel is using as a pretext. So international reaction started coming. The kind of atrocities they are committing are so much that even within IDF, there are reports of suicides, of psychological trauma. So they are so vicious that the most of vicious of the vicious also are getting affected by the sight of what they're doing. You can't imagine how bad it is. So, international media, total blackout. They are not supposed to speak about it. Then came some whistleblowers who started leaking information. But I think more came when the IDF soldiers started making videos of the atrocities they were committing with pleasure. And they were also selling it in the pornographic market to make money. So that's when the the horrendousness of all this started coming to fore. And then when you speak about, International Criminal Court issuing warrants against Mr. Netanyahu, and obviously IDF soldiers also cannot go on holidays abroad. Wherever they will go, their faces are recognizable because they made all those videos showing what they were doing. They had no shame about it. So, coming back to the point, the 7th October, what really happened? Was it success of Hamas that they broke the Iron Dome? They penetrated through it? Or were they kind of allowed to do so that a pretext could be built to create more violence, to create more atrocities? I don't know if you've heard of Hannibal Directive. Has anybody heard of Hannibal Directive? Can you tell us? Yeah, no, there was also a general in idea uh, who said that if you have to kill your own soldiers to achieve your objectives, you can do so. That means you don't have to save them. What you have to do, welcome, Ringita. You can do so. So they are willing to sacrifice that, probably from Hamas's perspective, to negotiate ceasefire. But for Israel and its allies, it was a justification to go on a rampage. Hamas tried many a times to have a peace deal, to have ceasefire. But Netanyahu undermined every time a peace negotiation was about to take place. Even they were going to negotiate the peace deal, and Hamas had conceded to everything. And yet, Netanyahu doesn't want peace. He doesn't want hostages. He wants the hostages to be there. Actually, Hamas he needs, because without Hamas, he could not do all what he's doing. But on the other hand, you look at China. China invited 14 of the Palestinian factions, brought them together, that they should unite, that they should stand with one voice. Because until you don't have one voice, you do not. China also brought Iran and Saudi Arabia together, which was something the Arab Ajam concept of, difference. China succeeded in that, but involved itself actively in the war. But it involved itself actively in the peace activities. USA, on the other hand, is totally tied down with Israel. But to understand why USA is so tied down, you have to understand the dynamics of internal politics in anybody who takes a post politician in USA, in Congress, has to pay a visit to Israel. And the Israel they are shown is not the Israel that it is. So there is an automatic sympathy because they're given good partying, good pictures. They also, I don't know if you've heard about the Epstein files. Why Epstein files have become so important? Because Mr. Epstein has had record of all the top American leadership and their activities of private life, where they were taken to the island, where they were, now those victims, those young girls, when they filed a case, that's when the story came out and it was stinking. And Mr. Epstein was imprisoned. And then mysteriously, he committed suicide in the prison. And when the judge was asked to check what really happened that moment of committing suicide. The record is deleted. There is no record. They've given 1 million excuses. The camera stopped, recording wasn't there, this, that, and the other. Did he really commit suicide? Was he murdered? Whatever the case, first the judge says, yes, she has list of his clients. Then they say there is no file. So, what am I trying to say here? Trying to say that the Jewish lobby has entrenched itself in the American political system to a level that they literally are enchained. They have records, they have all sorts of evidences against all these leaders. And then you have APEC, which is American Israeli Plan of Action. And you know that the son in law of Mr. Trump is son of the former president of APEC. So Jared Kushner is also there. Now, with all this, when you see in a bigger picture, as far as the Jews are concerned, they want to make Israel great again, mega. In America, they're wanting to make America great again. It's mega. But for that, if you observe Mr. Netanyahu's speeches at the UN, at international fora, every time he shows the map of Israel, it is new, it is different, it is bigger. Because in his mind, all this Abrahamic land is Israel's land given to them by God. So the question arises, is it a religious issue? Is it a political issue? Or is it a commercial issue? Because when you come to religion, then Armageddon is there. You have evangelicals also who are supporting this prophecy. But when you come to Jews, not all Jews are in favor of this. Those rabbis from the old school, they believe that if Netanyahu does not stop and Israel continues to expand, then according to their books, they will be punished and destroyed. But the other group thinks that no, God has given them the right and they can expand as far as possible. So interesting enough, all the three monotheistic religions somehow believe that they will rule the world after the Armageddon. The Jews think so. The Christians think that once the Jews take over, God will destroy them and those left over will become Christians. So Christians will rule the world. And the Muslims also believe that, everybody will become Muslim and the world will be ruled by the Muslims. So there is something back there in the minds which is a religious undertone also. And then political, obviously, because it's about the land, it's about the territory, it's about agreements. So obviously there is political agenda. But coming to commercial, you know that Mr. Trump is basically a real estate developer. That's how he made money. That's how his father made money. And his envoy to Israel/Palestine, Mr. Witkoff, is also a lawyer but a developer. So when Mr. Witkoff went to Gaza, he didn't care to meet the Palestinian suffering. He went to see the land that will be developed for tourism, for progress, for prosperity. This land will have a big Trump Tower. It will have hustle and bustle and big brands coming, and everybody will be looking for visas to go and have holidays there. But to do so, they have to eliminate the existence of Palestinians as people. And they have the right on the land. This is how I would like to conclude. And then we leave it to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request Ambassador Nasrullah, sir, to give his insights. Sir, please. 5 to 7 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Naila, for presenting this comprehensive overview of the creation of Israel, its wars with the Arabs and the Palestinians, and the unfolding tragedy that is taking place in Gaza. I think human language has yet to devise words, for describing this tragedy and the atrocities that are being committed there. You also presented your views about Hamas and the 7th of October. I personally think that this tragedy amply demonstrates the collective failure of the human species, that it has taken place and it has not been controlled so far. And all of us under this roof know very well what is going on there. I think even before the 7th of October, the Palestinians were subjected to untold oppression and indignities by the Zionists. Now that tragedy is going on, but recently there have been, some developments about the recognition of the state of Palestine, and perhaps there should be some discussion about the significance of this development.
We can do that, but I thought in question answers we can do it.
In question answer, yes.
Interactive. I just gave them.
Yeah. Your presentation was very comprehensive. It covered every aspect of the tragic situation, as I said. So thank you very much. And now.
Thank you, sir, for being so brief. And I would request Kitty Senazir, sir, to please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you indeed. Though I listened very small portion of that. Sorry for being late. But at the same time, the issue is such that it is live and it is a live streaming in every mind. And the world is seeing the carnage, the apartheidism, and plus the human tragedy, day and night, which is irrespective of being a war, but a genocide in a way that no woman, no children, no baby, no hospital, no school, and none of an inch of a place in Gaza is safe. And whenever they move, so at the same time, their guns are focused on them. And even they are killed once they are collecting the food, which is so scared. Now, and this is a new weapon which they've also perpetrated, that famine and hunger is another tragedy which is prevailing on them. But the biggest tragedy is that the world is watching. And we say the world has developed and it has got the values and it has got the democracy and it has got the human rights and morals are there. But probably the biggest graveyard of the morals and all these things is Gaza. Because Holocaust which occurred is not in front of our eyes. And it has been propagated or catapulted or exaggerated to the extent that now it is a thing which is a taboo to be discussed. But whatsoever happening is now alive and everybody knows it. But still, what we see that the US plus Europe, the way they are supporting Israel and the way the Israeli government under Netanyahu is bulldozing every resolution, every sort of morals, every sort of ethics, and even the war has got some sort of rules. They are being violated. So why it is so? Because the history is long, right from the Balfour Declaration and then the demise of the Ottoman Empire and then the nationalist Turkey and then coming into the protectorate of UK, of the Palestine. And then the war is right going from the 1922. And in 1948, of course, then the Nakaba starts and till day it is alive. So it is the longest war, probably. It is not the 2 years war. It is the longest war which is being waged. Now, what is going on and what is to be done or what is in the future. So probably I see that this is the final war. And these are the final blows. And what Israel is establishing, that they started from the Lebanon, where a big explosion took place and the city-state was reduced to rubble. So the other city-states, especially the Gulf, they were given the message that either you choose between that or you choose between the Abrahamic Accord. And some, of course, went for the Abrahamic Accord. Second thing is that after that, of course, resistance groups were there, and resistance groups are supposed to be there once the occupation is there, once the atrocities are there, or when the rights are being violated. But there are so many resolutions after the 1967 war which bars Israel from all these actions and which gives in the Oslo Accord a two-state solution as well. But none is being adhered for the reason that there is a political protection, there is a diplomatic protection, there is a military protection and support, and beside that, there is an alliance which go for the kill along with the Israel. So all these things put together, why Israel should stop a war where it is gaining? One. Second thing is, the resistance is once it is getting diluted, so why the Israel should stop a war? And third thing is, once there is all these support available and no bar holds, why Israel should stop? And once they have got that greater Israel agenda, and that is the right wing is in power, why Israel should stop? And again, once an ally of the Qatar of America, the biggest US base in that area, 13,000 troops and more are the missiles and all the armada is there, that is being attacked and no rocket is being fired or a bullet is being fired before that, during the attack and after the attack. So what we can conclude out of it. So naturally, that is the sword of Damocles which is hanging on the Middle East and on the Muslims. So the expansion is also there. That is the design. The subjugation of the people is also there. That is the whole Arab world. So naturally, the outcome is a new umbrella for protection. And a shield is required. where they can ensure or which should be credible enough. Because the credibility of America, especially once Qatar was attacked, there are now so many holes in that umbrella. That umbrella is no more protective in itself. So the credibility has been lost. So now what is available or what is, you can say, the way forward? The way forward is, of course, the Muslim unity, which we have seen, of course, and the OIC, which is there. And after the Qatar attack, what went on, and the breaks or the voices was raised, was no practical actions. So I suppose mutual defense acts like which has occurred between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and this is now a big bulwark against the Israeli expansion. Second thing is people are also looking towards Turkey, an emerging power. And the third thing, of course, the other Gulf states may join this particular accord as well, because unless there is a deterrence and a deterrence which is visible, which is in place, which is credible, and which can deliver, that can stop the further expansion of Israel. Another thing is that I must say that the muscles of Pakistan, the economy of Gulf states, the technology fusion of Europe and China, and fourth, the credibility of this accord or the expansion of this accord, that will matter. Otherwise, Israel is going to complete set agenda towards the bigger Israel. So no way out whatsoever the diplomacy, whatsoever the political aperture, or whatsoever could be there is no pressures. So as long as Netanyahu is there, the right wing is there, it will prevail, and they are not going to stop. So thank you. These were my few rather observations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would request Dr. Azhar Ahmed to please give his remarks, sir, please.
Less said, the better. I think a lot has been said already. My contention is, and it reflects what actually Brigadier Saad has also been trying to point out, that we are still trying to address continued Israeli aggression and genocide. I think what we should be talking about is the reactions of the people of the world and ourselves, what we have done. And is anybody amongst us is serious in getting it right? We can lament Israel for as long as we want. We can mourn the sufferings of the Palestinians. But I think in a very subtle way, Ambassador, you also pointed out, from where to start really? Who is fighting? I'm a little confused. In the beginning also, I had made a lot of vlogs on this and that, but then I don't even see Palestinians fighting. Have you seen? I grew up seeing Palestinians fighting. Even when that media was not there, we could find at least photographs and all that, and you remember Lala Khalid doing something and all that. But who is fighting today? Honestly, Hamas, 7th October, it's also confusing and controversial. I think that is what is the job of the think tanks and intelligent people like you, to talk about that instead of repeating these events which are being done every day, 24 hours. Why have we failed? what is the actual agenda of the, is it Israel war? Is United States really chained, or is it owned by the United States itself? I feel that both the countries, Israel and United States, are being ruled by the same people. So they are part and parcel. It's not that one is following the other or the other. They are being ruled by the same set of people. And if I may expand that, probably the same capitalist new cons are ruling the entire world. And that is why that influence on everybody. We can say we have spoken with really a lot of braveness, but what practical action have we taken? Can we really give one practical action by Pakistan or by any of the Middle Eastern countries? We can probably talk of the non-Muslims that they have taken practical actions against Israel and in favor of Gaza and the Palestinians. But I can't think of any action coming from a Muslim country. That is what we need to reflect on. Unity and all that, these defense pacts, again, I'm not sure if this defense pact was done without the approval of the United States of America. And if it was the case, then we can only talk about the defense pact. But so the end result, really, I'm confused, and I'll confused if I speak more, I'll confuse all the youngsters also. So I'll leave it at that. If there is further discussion, maybe. But I think these are the areas we should be able to learning from you people. I don't want to listen about Israeli aggression. It hurts. I'm listening it all day and night. I want to hear about the solutions. I want to hear who is doing what to us. Who are these rulers and why they are being able to control me and people around me? That is my question, if anybody from you can answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now let us move to the question and answer session. And where Dr. Azhar Ahmed left, let's pose that question to Ambassador Saiba. You answer to that question, please.
Thank you. This is not a question. This is expression of frustration. So I don't know. Everybody feels the same way. A lot of action has been taken, but as I said before also, that first they divided the Palestinians themselves, and then the Arab world, which were the neighboring countries, so that nobody could stand up. Even when Israeli missiles were being shot at Iran, they were the Iranian missiles were being shot at Israel. They were intercepted by Jordanians. That this is violation of our airspace. So what are we talking about? I think that the concept of nation state, because it all started with the fall of Ottoman Empire. And we, the people, I mean, of course, the West calls themselves the civilized people, but actually they don't know what civilized is. We have 5,000 years of history of civilizations, of wars and managing wars. We are inheritors of the Indus Valley civilization, which never had wars. If you look at the, whatever archaeological gains, you would see toys for the children, you would have sanitation, you would have education. That's our inheritance. This whole concept of nation state as it evolved after 1917, the League of Nations, and then World War II, and then post-colonial, independence of states, how the boundaries were carved, and it was ensured that these boundaries have problems, that they cannot stand together. They're always at daggers drawn with each other. And once they are daggers drawn with each other, they are not going to think about what Israel is doing. They are more worried about what their borders are. And that's how the Ottoman Empire was sliced and cut, and new states were created. They were deliberately created with an agenda. And that agenda is now coming to fruition. So, like Brigadier Saab said, like Ambassador, my dear friend Nasrullah said, and what Dr. Saab said, what are we looking towards? Is it a kind of Armageddon? Because it's not that people are not responding. People are reacting. There's a lot of social media activity. There is this flotilla that is going where it's not just Muslims who are going, it's human beings who are going. So when Ambassador Nasra said that this is basically insult to humanity, I think the flotilla is a proof that humanity is still there. But how does it manifest itself? Aid is being sent, but it is blocked there. And the agency that was given the right to distribute the aid were the killers, were the mercenaries. And it was like cattle lined up. And do you know that the Ambassador Bra, the barbed wires in which they made the queues were razor sharp. So if they were shot and they ran, they would be sliced by the barbed wires also, let alone the bullets. So you starve them, you make them desperate, and then you shoot at them. But then coming back to my question, Ambassador Nasrullah raised a good point that we are talking about recognition of Palestine as a state. France has done it, Australia has done it, Canada is doing it, UK has done it. All these countries that were earlier on supporting Israel are now. It's not that they're not supporting Israel, be very clear, but at least they have recognized the right of the Palestinians to exist as a state. And today, right now, while we are deliberating at the UN, this is an agenda item. France and Saudi Arabia had this joint initiative for recognition of Palestine as a state. But my question is that, okay, you have recognized Palestine, there is a state, but where is it on the ground? They have demolished everything. As far as the Arab proposal is concerned, the Arab countries are going to pool in funds for the reconstruction of Gaza. As far as Mr. Trump, Mr. Witkoff, and Mr. Netanyahu is concerned, they are going to spend money for the reconstruction of Gaza. But will that Gaza be Palestinian Gaza? Or will it be Israeli Gaza where you go for holidays? Who's making money on that? So that's why I said the question we have to think is it a religious issue? Is it a political issue? Or is it a commercial issue? Or is it all of it? Where you become complacent. And remember, whenever you're divided, you're weak. And I think that was Palestinian biggest issues. Even now, if you ask PLO Mahmoud Abbas to sit with any of the Hamas leaders, he will refuse to do so. Although Hamas is so-called fighting for Palestine. Within them, they're so divided that it was easy for Israel to slice them down. And that is a lesson we need to learn for ourselves also. That if we as Pakistanis stand together, nobody can hurt you. But if you get divided, your enemies will benefit from that. Never ever forget that. But coming down to the Palestine itself, at this moment, there is a talk of state of Palestine. Although according to UN resolutions, the borders of the state of Palestine will be pre-1967 borders. This is Pakistan's position and it's position of most of the countries. But is Israel going to give away that land for the creation of the state of Palestine? At this moment, there are IDF forces right on the border of Egypt. And the war may soon start between Israel and Egypt. Because Israel has to expand. This is their agenda of what Brigadier Saab said, MIGA, the Make Israel Great Again. It's whole of the Abrahamic land. It will include Egypt, it will include Jordan, it will include Syria, it will include Lebanon, it will include Saudi Arabia. It will include all these countries, Qatar, Iraq, all these countries will fall part of it, the greater Israel. So what we need to do is first bring our own house in order. When you are with a beggar, you cannot stand up because you're negotiating. I'm sorry to say, but this is a fact. So while we talk with emotion, we should also have a sense of reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other one? Do we have any online question, please? Tahir Zaman, I guess.
Yes,
Please go ahead.
yes, sir. First of all, I'm very thankful to him that she is in such a brief explanation about the Gaza genocide in currently situation. But I have a few suggestion and as well as a question on it that the Gaza currently crisis is such complex issue that we cannot say that it is a religious or political. We cannot determine it. So we can raise awareness about it. So awareness we can do through a personal stories or through background, or if we can go to physical, I think, background, we can protest in Pakistan against the Israel. So if we do it, so even Pakistani government can do action against us. So we can face it in Islamabad. Recently, you can see that the जुमात इस्लामी है ना करंटली जो इसका जो सेनेटर है ना उसको भी इसने FIR भी इस पे दिया है. तो मेरे पहला क्वेश्चन है कि हम अगर अवेयरनेस से ना राइज करें तो इसके हम ये फेस करें ये चैलेंजेस. दूसरी बात ये कि अगर हम है ना थ्रू यूनाइटेड नेशन की तरफ से या कोई NGOs की तरफ से अगर हमने जाना है तो इसके थ्रू भी हमने कोई वहां पे मीडिया के थ्रू हमने जाना होगा. वहां पे अगर हमको कोई ऐसे इंफॉर्मेशन मिल सकते हैं कि हम लोगों को ना अवेयरनेस फिर दे सकते हैं, लोग हम दिखा सकते हैं, लेकिन वो भी कोई मीडिया भी वहां पे अवेलेबल नहीं है जो लोग ना हमें इसके बारे में अवेयर करें. वो चाहे इंटरनेशनल मीडिया हो या इसके अपने नेशनल गजा का मीडिया हो, हमें कुछ भी दिखा नहीं सकते. मतलब प्रॉपरली वो बेंड है। दूसरी तीसरी बात जो है ना वो बात आते हैं एड्स के बारे में। अगर हम एड्स देते तो एड्स भी हमारे जो एड होते वो प्रॉपर तरीके से वहाँ पे नहीं पहुँचते जो वहाँ पे हम पहुँचाना चाहते, क्योंकि एक तो वहाँ पे जो रास्ते ना वो भी बंद है। करंटली वो जो सेनेटर है ना वो अभी जा रहे, तकरीबन 1 हफ्ता हो गया लेकिन वो पहुँचा नहीं है अभी तक। तो हम किस तरीके से, कोई ऐसा तरीका है कि हम इसका हेल्प करें? एक मेरे माइंड में एक है ना, जिससे कि आज जुड़े लागू जो कॉन्फ्रेंस इसके लिए वो जो करवा रहे हैं ना आईपीएस, आई एम रियली अप्रिशिएटेड। तो ये एक मेरे ख्याल में एक तरीके के हम इसी के थ्रू है ना हम अवेयरनेस करें। बाकी तो मेरे ख्याल में कोई तरीका नहीं है, अगर है तो मैम काइंडली आप हमें सजेस्ट करें। और दूसरी जो लास्ट क्वेश्चन मेरा है वो है अबाउट द करंट डिफेंस पैक्ट ऑफ सऊदी एंड पाकिस्तान। अगर हम पाकिस्तान और सऊदी के ना इसी तरह पैक्ट करें तो जिस तरह के नेटो का जो डिफेंस एक्ट है ना वो आपस में वो इसी तरह करवा सके, तो क्या हम मुस्लिम ममालिक आपस में इसी तरह पैक्ट नहीं बना सकते? क्योंकि ये सिर्फ पाकिस्तान या सऊदिया के लिए तो अहम नहीं है, क्योंकि ये सारे इस्लामिक कंट्रीज के लिए एक अहम है। अगर ईरान है, पाकिस्तान, अजरबैजान, जितने भी कंट्रीज है मुस्लिम, अगर ये इसी तरह एक डिफेंस पैक्ट बनाए जिस तरह के नेटो है, तो क्या ये अहम नहीं है पाकिस्तान के लिए या बाकी इस्लामिक कंट्रीज के लिए? थैंक यू मैम।
थैंक यू ताहिर। हाँ शुभ, मैं कह रहा हूँ 1-2 क्वेश्चन ले लें फिर इकट्ठे। जी, we have an online question from Miss Momna Vishan. She says that, do you believe the recent defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia could influence the trajectory of conflict in Gaza? And if so, how might it affect the humanitarian situation on the ground? Do we have any other question online for the time being? Okay.
Can you allow me to ask a question, please?
Yes, Miss Kainat, please.
Thank you so much for giving me the chance to ask a question. My name is
Please be
Kainat
brief.
Shahid.
No comments, please.
Yeah, sure. I'll be brief. So my first question is that to what extent do you believe that this genocide is related to the demolition of Al-Aqsa Mosque? That is one of their agendas because they want to build a third temple, right? And secondly, will the Pakistan and Saudi Defense Pact affect the continued genocide? Because we see that in the greater Israel map, there is a part of Saudi Arabia till Al Bureda city. So how will this pact affect the situation right now? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kainat. Anyone from the audience, please? Ji.
Like they were Israeli agent, kind of like you kind of hit on that. मतलब मेरे लिए तो बड़ा मुश्किल है ये बात कि उनकी अपनी आइडियोलॉजी है और क्यों हम उनमें होमोजेनिटी तलाश कर रहे हैं, लाइक व्हाई दे कांट हैव अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन देम। और दूसरा ये कि अगर इस पे इसराइल ने ब्लाइंड आई टर्न की भी है उनकी तरफ, तो इसमें गलत क्या है? लाइक उनके अपने अंदर इख्तलाफ हो सकता है। और सेकेंडली थोड़ा इस्लामिक उससे है कि लाइक मुझे तो ऐसा नहीं पता इस्लामिक पर्सपेक्टिव में अगर आप पॉइंट आउट कर सके कि मुस्लिम्स का भी कोई राइट ऑफ लैंड है कि ये लैंड हमारी है और ये नहीं है। लाइक इजंट इट वेरी मॉडर्निस्ट कंसेप्ट एंड नेशन स्टेट कंसेप्ट के ये तो पैलेस्टीनियंस की लैंड है, क्योंकि सूरा 5 वर्स 27 में गॉड ने कहा है कि ही प्रॉमिस्ड दैट लैंड टू ज्यूज। सो व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस?
There are 3 times mention of the mutual strategic defense act between agreement between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. And of course, it's a big development on the geopolitical, geostrategic plinth, and especially in the context of that Israel and India nexus is there. And this nexus, we have seen it in the 4 days war as well. And otherwise, their approach towards Gaza and to the Kashmir, that is identical, scorched earth policy on both sides. And also, India is mimicking or aping what the Israelis is doing in Gaza. And third thing is there was, you can say, in the Quad and other, a corridor is supposed to be built up to to the Israeli port and then to the Europe. That was another development. Another thing is coming into play that will seeing in this that the global order has become a disorder. So once the disorder is there, so naturally the world is on the spin. And why the world is on the spin? Because the UN has lost its teeth and lost its credibility. Because the resolutions which are coming for only for the ceasefire, for which the UN is a guarantor, or the very foundation of the UN has been built on this very premise that the world peace. So if the ceasefire is not coming through, there are 14 members asking in the Security Council, and one is raising the hand, and then everything has gone for the six. So once the global order is not there, and the violation of is there, and the UN is not acting, so what are the options left? So the option is, of course, once we come to that deterrence. And deterrence, that's the word itself indicate that mutual defense agreement. So this mutual strategic, it means a lot. It has been very well crafted. Crafted in the sense that it includes everything. That may be conventional or that may be unconventional. More so that the landmass of Saudi Arabia and then the rimland of Saudi Arabia, the Red Sea and then the Indian Ocean. And third is the, you can say, the energy hub and the economy, and plus the conventional might of all these countries in the Middle East is there, but how to use it and in sync, or you can say in a synergy that is missing. So what this has provided, it is now a new sheriff in this particular agreement, which has come into play in the Middle East. And if this new sheriff prevails on the rogue element, or it stops the expansion designs of Israel, or it creates a wedge between Israel and India, or if the geopolitical approach is further enhanced and it becomes a pivot on the ground, so I suppose it means a lot. And things are not to be seen only that what is happening on the ground, but things are to be seen that what does it mean. So because there are so many things which has not been put to the limelight, or it has not been put to the thing, or you can say the clauses are not all that visible. But what is in the NATO, the 5 and 6 article of the NATO is right there. Then I'm not rather prolonging it, but let me call it that what else? What is the alternative? If it is not there, so at least there is something which has come into play, which can put or which can impose some deterrence on the expansion of Israel. And second thing, something new has been brought into the area where the other can also follow the suit. And third thing is that there are some sort of limitation imposed on Israel as well as India. And fourth thing is that will the world is changing so fast. And if this new alliances and new geopolitical rapprochement, that is there, so naturally, in future, lot many things will be coming into play. So for the other countries, I suppose economy is their lifeline of the West. And third thing is the derecognition. And fourth thing is, let's think about this particular question, that there are only 9.1 million Jews in the world. And out of that, about 7 million or so are there in Israel. In Israel, 1.4 million women, they are soldiers in the sense that they are reserves, but they have got the training. And 1.5 million men up to the age of 49, they are also reserve. And plus, they have got a standing army of almost 2.5 lakhs. And plus, active reserves about 4.5 lakhs. So all these put together, there is no civilian in Israel, except for the child or the old beyond the age of 60. So a nation has a big, you can say, standing or reserve army. And more so, they've got all the sophisticated weapons which is available in the West. And third, they are not bothered about the economy because they get everything for free. And fifth thing is they've got a free hand. So all these things, once we see it, so once we raise the questions, why in the world this 9.1 million people are so important and so powerful? They are controlling superpowers, UK, France, America, Europe, and so many. This is the big question. Thank you indeed.
Thank you so much, Brigadier साहब. बेटा ये बहुत से सवाल हैं, क्योंकि आप उर्दू में पूछना चाह रहे थे तो मैं उर्दू में ही जवाब दे रही हूँ. ये बात दुरुस्त है कि जो इजरायली एजेंडा है वो डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ अल-अक्सा मॉस्क है. उन्होंने इसको तबाह करना है और इसमें उन्होंने वो टेम्पल बनाना है. वो उनका बिल्कुल क्लैरिटी है उसमें, उनको कोई शक नहीं है. अगर हमें कोई शक है तो वो हमें निकाल देना चाहिए. सो उसको रोकने के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि हम सारे आपस में मुत्तहिद हों. पहले तो मैं पहले से ही कहा, यूनिटी इज़ अ वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट एलिमेंट जो कि वी मिस ऑन. फिर आपने हमास की बात की बेटा. हमास, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि डाइवर्सिटी में कोई गलती है, लेकिन अगर आप आपस में इकट्ठे नहीं होते तो दुश्मन उसका फायदा उठाता है. और यही हुआ, क्योंकि आप देखें कि कैसे उन्हें इजराइलीज को पता है कि फलाने लम्हे में फलानी जगह पे फलाना शख्स बैठा ये काम कर रहा है. सो ऑब्वियसली उनकी इंटेलिजेंस भी अच्छी होगी, लेकिन आपके अंदर गद्दारों की भी कमी नहीं है. और हमास के अंदर भी बहुत से मसाइल हैं. फ़लस्तीनियों में भी जो डिवीज़न है वो कॉज़ बना उनके तबाही का. ये बात सही है कि इस्लाम में लैंड का कोई ज़िक्र है, सच नहीं है, पर ये ज़रूर है कि क़यामत का दिन आएगा और एक मतलब नया वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर आएगा. हज़रत ईसा के आने की भी बात होती है. सो इसमें आई डू बिलीव कि ये जो लीडर्स हैं लगते नहीं हैं, बट ये बहुत ज़्यादा अपने डाई हार्ट फनेटिक रिलीजियस फोर्सेस भी हैं जो वहाँ काम कर रही हैं. और यूएन की टीथ ना होना, उसको बनाया कब क्या था? آفٹر ورلڈ وار 2. تو اس کو ٹیت دینا تو تھا ہی نہیں. ایک آپ نے UN سیکورٹی کاؤنسل بنائی جس میں 5 ممالک تھے. اس وقت دنیا میں اتنے ممالک آزاد بھی نہیں ہوئے تھے. تو UNGA میں اتنے ممالک نہیں تھے. پاکستان بھی 47 میں آزاد ہوا ہے, 45 میں UN بنا ہے. اس وقت UN میں GA میں کتنے لوگ تھے اور سیکورٹی کاؤنسل میں کتنے لوگ تھے. ویٹو پاور بنائی گئی. سو پلیز آپ کو پہلے سمجھنا ہوگا کہ UN کو بنانے کا مقصد کیا تھا, تو پھر آپ کو سمجھ آئے گا کہ UN کہاں پہ پرفارم کر سکتی, کہاں نہیں کر سکتی. یہ تو اور بات ہے کہ اب GA میں جو ہے 193 ممالک ہو گئے ہیں, تو سیکورٹی کاؤنسل میں وہی 5 رہے کیونکہ انہوں نے اپنی اجارہ داری رکھی. تو اب جو ہے مورل پریشر تو ہوتا ہے پر لاسٹ مومنٹ پہ ویٹو ہو جاتا ہے. ساری رات آپ بیٹھ کے نیگوشیٹ کرتے ہیں, باتیں سب مانی جاتی ہیں, صبح کو آ کے پرچہ پھاڑ کے کہتے ہیں جی سوری ویٹو, تو وہ بات رہ جاتی ہے. جہاں تک رہی UN کے چارٹر میں پیس کی بات ہے, لیکن پیس جو غرب کی ڈیفینیشن سے ہے, آپ کی ڈیفینیشن سے نہیں ہے. سو اس میں بھی آپ کو غلط فہمی نہیں ہونی چاہیے کیونکہ ڈونرز بھی وہی ہیں. سو جہاں پہ وہ چاہتے ہیں, اگر وہ ٹیمور لیسٹ کو آزاد کرانا چاہتے تھے تو ایک دن میں ہو گیا تھا. کشمیر کو آپ 70 سال کوشش کر چکے, نہیں ہوا, بلکہ 75 سال. اسی طرح فلسطین, جہاں ڈونرز کا پیسہ ہے وہاں پہ UN کام کر سکتی ہے. اور ادھر بھی دیکھیں کہ UN کی جو ایجنسیز ہیں ان کو اسرائیل نے وہاں سے نکالا اور کہا گیا کہ وہ UN کے جاسوس یہاں بیٹھے ہیں, اور وہ بیچارے UN کے جاسوس نہیں تھے. All that they was doing was کہ وہ کہہ رہے تھے جی آج اتنی لاشیں آئیں. اتنی لاشیں آنے کا مطلب ہے کہ اتنے لوگ مارے گئے ہیں. جو مارے گئے کا ڈیٹا آتا ہے وہ پھر اسرائیل کے خلاف آتا ہے. تو وہ ڈیٹا جو تھا ان کو تکلیف دے رہا تھا کہ اصلیت باہر آ رہی تھی, حالانکہ وہ ڈیٹا نہیں کر رہے تھے, وہ صرف اپنا کام کر رہے تھے. تو ان کو مار دیا گیا اور UN کے دفاتر وہاں بند کیے گئے. کمنگ بیک ٹو پاک سعودی ڈیفنس پیکٹ, یہ ایک بہت اہم ڈیولپمنٹ ہے, لیکن اس کی شکیں ابھی زیادہ تر پتہ نہیں ہے. سو ہم جو زیادہ تر اس پہ بحث و مباحثہ کر رہے ہیں وہ قیاس رائے پہ کر رہے ہیں. فیکٹس اینڈ فگرز ہمارے پاس نہیں ہیں, کم از کم میرے پاس نہیں ہیں, ٹو بی ویری آنیسٹ. ہیونگ سیڈ دیٹ, آئی ایگری ود بریگیڈیئر صاحب کہ یہ ایک میوچول اسٹریٹجک ڈیفنس پیکٹ ہے which might serve as a deterrence. لیکن اگر آپ جنرل کدوائی کی وہ سنیں اسپیچ, تو انہوں نے کلیئرٹی سے کہا ہے کہ اس میں نیوکلیئر کا کوئی حصہ نہیں ہے. اٹ از ناٹ اے نیوکلیئر ڈیفense پیکٹ. لیکن پاکستان فوج ماشاءاللہ اتنی اس کی دنیا میں دھاک ہے کہ اس کی کنونشنل فورس بھی اتنی اسٹرانگ ہے, چاہے آپ کی ایئر فورس ہے یا نیوی ہے یا آرمی ہے, کہ آپ ایک نیچرل ڈیٹرنٹ ہیں. اور یہ بھی بات انٹرسٹنگ ہے کہ جب یہ پیکٹ ہوا تو سعودی MBS نے ایران کو فون کر کے بتایا کہ ہم نے یہ معاہدہ کیا ہے اور یہ کسی کے خلاف نہیں ہے, تاکہ ایران کو بھی یہ نہ لگے کہ اب یہ شیعہ سنی سین شروع ہو رہا ہے. سو دیٹ واز اے ویری امپورٹنٹ تھنگ دیٹ MBS ڈیڈ, کہ یہ پیکٹ کس کے خلاف ہے. اور اسرائیل کا اگر انڈیا کے ساتھ نیکسس ہے, آلریڈی آپ نے وہ ایکسپیرینس کیا تھا پہلگام میں بھی, یہ اسرائیلی ڈرونز تھے جو آپ پہ گر رہے تھے. سو اسرائیل اور انڈیا نیکسس از ویری مچ دیئر. لیکن یہ جو پیکٹ ہے اس پہ چین کو بھی کوئی اعتراض نہیں ہے, روس کو بھی کوئی اعتراض نہیں، اور ایران کو بتا دی کہ آپ کے خلاف نہیں ہے. اور سچ پوچھیں، آپس کی بات ہے، مجھے لگتا ہے امریکہ کو بھی کوئی اعتراض نہیں ہے، کیونکہ ان کو جو ہے خود، کیونکہ ٹرمپ صاحب کا پرسپیکٹو فرق ہے فرام دیئر ڈیپ اسٹیٹ. اور اب آپ دیکھیں کہ 6-7 ممالک کے جو رہبران ہیں وہ ٹرمپ صاحب سے ملنے جا رہے ہیں. نیکسٹ منڈے کو ہے ملاقات، 1-2 دن میں ہی ہے نا. تو اس کی بھی بہت اہمیت ہے، کیونکہ اس ڈیفنس پیکٹ کے بعد وہ جا رہے ہیں ملنے. سو اس ڈیفنس پیکٹ کی میرے خیال میں سب سے بڑی اہمیت یہ ہے کہ اسرائیل کو ایک خوف تو ہے، کیونکہ انہوں نے آپ سے پراکسی میں کافی چپڑیں کھائی ہوئی ہیں، چاہے وہ 67 میں تھی چاہے وہ ابھی. سو وہ ڈیپ ڈاؤن آپ سے ڈرتے ہیں. تو جب آپ نے سعودیوں سے یہ پیک کیا تو انہیں ایک ڈیٹرنس ڈیفینیٹلی ہوگا، لیکن اس کی امپلیمنٹیشن خدا نہ خواستہ اگر کل کو وہ سعودیوں پہ حملہ کرتے ہیں، کیونکہ اس وقت تو مجھے لگتا ہے کہ وہ ایجپٹ کی طرف جا رہے ہیں، اور ایجپٹ کے بعد شاید ترکیے کی باری آئے. اگر ترکیے پہ جاتے ہیں تو پھر اٹس اوپننگ اپ پینڈوراز باکس، بیکاز ترکی از ممبر آف نیٹو آلسو. سو اف اسرائیل اٹیکس a NATO member country, which is Turkey, how will the other NATO countries respond to that? That will make it very difficult for the EU and the NATO member countries if Turkey is attacked. So ابھی بہت سی چیزیں جو ہیں وہ ایوالو ہو رہی ہیں، کوئی ہم اس میں حتمی بات نہیں کر سکتے، لیکن آپ جو ہیں، جو اسٹوڈنٹس ہیں، جو ریسرچرز ہیں، آپ کو اس میں سے لیسنس لینے ہیں. جو تاریخ میں لیسنس ہیں ان کو آپ نے حالات حاضرہ پہ کس طرح سے امپلیمنٹ کرنا ہے، اور دیکھنا ہے کہ ہم جو اپنے آپ کو مسلمان کہتے ہیں، ہم اپنی آئیڈینٹی، اپنے ایمان، اپنے وجود کے لیے کس طرح سے ایک جو کمزور نہتا ہے اس کے اوپر کون سے دنیا کے آرمز استعمال نہیں ہوئے، اس طرح سے استعمال ہو رہے ہیں جیسے ان کے پاس بھی کوئی نیوکلیئر وار ہیڈز ہے، اور ان غریبوں کے پاس کھانا نہیں ہے، اور جو ان پہ اکوپمنٹ یوز ہو رہا ہے وہ انبیلیویبل ہے. ایک نہتے کو تو آپ ایک تھپڑ مار دیں بہت ہے، وہ بھوکا بیچارہ اس کو ایک مکہ مار دیں وہ ناک آؤٹ ہو جائے گا. کجا کہ آپ اتنے بڑے آرمز لے کے آ رہے ہیں ادھر تباہی مچانے، ان کے گھر تباہ کرنے، ان کا ہر چیز تباہ کر دی ہے. انہوں نے انسانیت ختم کر دی، انسانیت ختم کر دی ہے انہوں نے، جو کہ امبیسڈر نصر اللہ کی بات تھی. تھینک یو.
Thank you, ma'am. With this, I would like to request Mr. Saeed Abrar Hussain for his concluding remarks.
تھینک یو. سب سے پہلے تو تمام مقررین کا شکریہ، ایمبیسڈر نائلہ چوہان کا فار سچ اے کمپریہنسو ٹاک، اینڈ آلسو مائی گریٹیٹیوڈ ٹو ایمبیسڈر نصر اللہ خان، بریگیڈیئر سید نذیر، ڈاکٹر اظہر، آل دیز ڈسکسنٹس. جو کچھ آپ نے سنا، میرے ایڈریسز زیادہ چونکہ ہماری یہ نئی جنریشن ہے، سو لیٹ می اسپیک ان اردو. جو کچھ آپ نے آج سنا، ایمبیسڈر نائلہ چوہان کی بڑی کمپریہنسو پریزنٹیشن تھی. اس سے آپ کو کچھ تو حالات حاضرہ کے تجزیہ کرنے میں مدد ملے گی، اور کچھ تاریخ کے اوراق پلٹتے ہوئے آپ کو یہ سمجھنے میں مدد ملتی ہے کہ جو کچھ ہو رہا ہے یہ کیوں ہو رہا ہے۔ اس میں سب سے ضروری چیز یہ ہے کہ آپ نے تاریخ کا پورا مطالعہ کیا ہو۔ اگر آپ کو نہیں پتا کہ 1897 میں اسرائیل بنانے کا فیصلہ ہوا تھا، یا 1917 میں برطانیہ والوں نے یہ فیصلہ کر لیا تھا، یا عثمانی حکومت کو توڑنے کے بعد وہاں پہ یہودیوں کو لے جا کے آباد کیا گیا تھا، یا 1948 میں جب اسرائیل بنا تو نقبہ ہوا تھا اور کیسے وہاں سے 9 لاکھ فلسطینیوں کو نکال دیا گیا تھا، تو یہ ساری ہسٹری جب آپ کو پتا ہوگی تو سٹیپ بائی سٹیپ بڑھتے ہوئے آپ آج تک پہنچیں گے۔ جب ہم کہتے ہیں کہ 7 اکتوبر ہوا تھا تو why did it happen? Why actions by Hamas on 7th of October? کوئی نہ کوئی اس کی وجہ تو ہوگی۔ اٹس ویری ایزی ٹو سے کہ ہم کہہ دیں کہ جی حماس تو ٹیررسٹ ہے، یعنی جو بھی فلسطینی گروپ اسرائیل کو ریکگنائز نہیں کرتا وہ ٹیررسٹ ہے۔ ایک تو بہت سمپل ڈیفینیشن ہے اس کی۔ آپ یہ دیکھیے کہ پہلے پی ایل او بھی فلسطین کو تسلیم نہیں کرتا تھا، لیکن اس کے بعد اوسلو ایکارڈ ہوا، اوسلو 1 اوسلو 2 ہوا 1988 میں، 1993 میں 2 دفعہ پی ایل او نے آفیشلی ریکگنیشن کا اعلان کیا اسرائیل کی۔ کس لیے کیا؟ کہ بدلے میں اسرائیل لینڈ فار پیس کے معاہدے پہ عمل کرتے ہوئے فلسطینی ریاست بنائے گا ویسٹ بینک میں اور غزہ میں۔ لیکن پی ایل او نے تو تسلیم کر لیا، اسرائیل نے جواب میں کچھ نہیں کیا، صرف ایک پیلسٹینین اتھارٹی بنا دی جس کے پاس کوئی اتھارٹی نہیں ہے۔ اور اس اتھارٹی کے بھی جب الیکشنز ہوئے ہیں 2006 میں، اور اس میں حماس واز دا لارجسٹ الیکٹڈ گروپ ان دی پیلسٹینین پارلیمنٹ، تو اس کے بعد کیا ہوا؟ اسماعیل ہانیہ واز دی پرائم منسٹر، الیکٹڈ پرائم منسٹر۔ اسرائیلی آرمی جسٹ واکڈ ان ویسٹ بینک میں، انہوں نے جو الیکٹڈ کیبنٹ تھی، منسٹرز تھے، ان کو اریسٹ کیا، ان کے ممبرز آف پارلیمنٹ کو اریسٹ کیا، ان کی گورنمنٹ کو ڈسمس کیا، اور انہوں نے کہا کہ حماس تو ٹیررسٹ ہے، یہ گورنمنٹ کیسے بنا سکتے ہیں۔ پھر حماس کی میجورٹی تھی غزہ میں، غزہ کا محاصرہ کیا انہوں نے 2007 سے 2023 تک، گن لیں کہ یہ کتنے سال بنتے ہیں۔ 2007 سے وہ محاصرے میں تھے، they were under siege for such a long time۔ اور اس کے بعد اگر انہوں نے کوئی ریئیکشن دیا تو پھر وہ ٹیررسٹ ہے۔ اس لیے اسرائیل کو اس وقت تک ان سے ان کے خلاف ایکشن لینا چاہیے جب تک وہ بالکل صفحہ زمین سے ہٹ نہ جائیں، ایلیمینیٹ نہ ہو جائیں۔ یعنی نو ون از دیئر ٹو آسک اسرائیل کہ جب پی ایل او نے آپ کو تسلیم کر لیا تو آپ نے جواب میں فلسطینی ریاست کیوں نہیں بننے دی؟ یا وہ سارے جو گارنٹر تھے یو ایس اور سارے یورپین کنٹریز، انہوں نے فلسطینی ریاست کو کیوں تسلیم نہیں کیا؟ صرف مسلمان ملکوں نے فلسطینی ریاست کو تسلیم کیا، اور P5 نے نہیں کیا، یورپین ملکوں نے نہیں کیا۔ یہ اب آ کے ہوا ہے کہ ان سب نے انہیں ماننا شروع کیا ہے۔ اور جو گریٹر اسرائیل کی باتیں آپ نے سنی، یہ سب کی سب سارے فلسطینیوں کو بھی سامنے ہیں۔ تو یہ جو ایک ڈیوائڈ ود ان پیلسٹینینز ہے، اس کی بھی ایک وجہ ہے کہ ایک گروپ نے تسلیم کر کے دیکھ لیا، اس کو کچھ نہیں ملا، تو دوسرے نے کہا کہ ہم لڑکے دیکھتے ہیں۔ اور اب آپ یہ دیکھیے کہ جو یہ 2 years وار ہے، اس کا امپیکٹ، اس کے کانسیکوینسز، اس کے اثرات و نتائج فوری طور پہ کیا آپ کو نظر آتے ہیں؟ ایک تو ویو آف سمپیتھی ہے ٹورڈز پیلسٹینین کاز تھرو آؤٹ دا ورلڈ، جو ورلڈ کیپٹلز میں ہیوج پروٹیسٹ ہو رہے ہیں، اس کی وجہ سے وہ سمپیتھی بڑھتی جا رہی ہے۔ دوسرا جو 2 اسٹیٹ کا کانسیپٹ ہے جو اوسلو کے بعد آیا تھا، وہ ریوائیو ہو رہا ہے۔ اب سارے ملک جو ہیں دنیا کے وہ یہ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ 2 اسٹیٹ سولوشن ہونا چاہیے۔ تیسری ڈیولپمنٹ جو اب حالیہ آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں کہ پے در پے مختلف ممالک اسے، یہاں جو ذکر آیا کہ برطانیہ نے، کینیڈا نے، آسٹریلیا نے، فرانس نے، مالٹا نے، پرتگال نے، یعنی پے در پے مختلف ممالک جو جنہوں نے اب تک تسلیم نہیں کیا تھا وہ اب اسے تسلیم کر رہے ہیں۔ لیکن اس ریکگنیشن کے کا کیا اثر ہے, اب اس پہ کیا ریئیکشن آ رہا ہے. آپ دیکھیں یو ایس یہ کہہ رہا ہے کہ اس ریکگنیشن کی وجہ سے جو مسئلے کا حل ہے وہ اور مشکل ہو جائے گا. اسرائیل یہ کہہ رہا ہے کہ اس ریکگنیشن کی وجہ سے اس کی ایگزسٹنس کو خطرہ پیدا ہو جائے گا. ایک تو یہ ریئیکشن ہے. دوسرا وہ ریئیکشن ہے جو پیلسٹینین اتھارٹی دے رہی ہے, محمود عباس اینڈ کمپنی, جو اسے ویلکم کر رہے ہیں. وہ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ اس کی وجہ سے ہم ایک قدم مزید اپنی منزل سے قریب تر ہو رہے ہیں. یعنی جو فلسطینی ریاست کا خواب تھا وہ اب پورا ہونے جا رہا ہے, اور جتنے زیادہ ملک اسے تسلیم کر رہے ہیں ہم اسی طرح بتدریج اپنے منزل سے قریب ہو رہے ہیں. تیسری ایک اور بھی اپروچ ہے. وہ اپروچ یہ ہے کہ کیا یہ ریکگنیشن کافی ہے؟ کیا اس کی وجہ سے جو مظالم ہو رہے ہیں, جو جینوسائیڈ ہو رہا ہے, جو اٹراسٹیز ہیں, کیا ان کو لگام دی جا سکے گی؟ کیا اس سے اسرائیل پہ کوئی اثر پڑے گا, یا یہ صرف دنیا کی توجہ ڈسٹریکٹ کرے گا؟ یعنی جو دنیا کی توجہ ان اٹراسٹیز اور مظالم کی طرف ہے, کہیں ایسا تو نہیں کہ ساری توجہ ادھر ہو جائے گی ریکگنیشن کی طرف اور ادھر سے توجہ ہٹ جائے گی. لیکن اگر وہ توجہ نہ بھی ہٹے تو یہ سوال اپنی جگہ برحق ہے کہ از اٹ انف کہ ہم اسے ریکگنائز کر لیں اور پھر خاموش ہو کے بیٹھ جائیں. تو یہ تین طرح کے اس پہ ریئیکشنز آپ نے دنیا میں دیکھے ہیں. اب ایک اور اہم ڈیولپمنٹ جو آپ نے دیکھی ہوگی وہ یہ کہ اسرائیل جو ہے وہ سیز فائر کو نہیں مان رہا, اور امریکہ یونائٹڈ اسٹیٹس جو ہے مسلسل سیز فائر کی قراردادوں کو ویٹو کر رہا ہے. ابھی ایک دو دن پہلے بھی ایک قرارداد تھی, اسے بھی امریکہ نے ویٹو کر دی. یعنی بظاہر تو آپ کہتے رہیں کہ آپ پیس کے حق میں ہیں, لیکن جب بھی سیز فائر کی قرارداد آتی ہے تو آپ اسے ویٹو کر دیتے ہیں. تو اس سے آپ کی بدنیتی بالکل آشکارا ہو جاتی ہے کہ آپ صرف یہ چاہ رہے ہیں کہ اسرائیل جو ہے وہ یہ قتل عام جاری رکھے جب تک وہ اپنے مقاصد حاصل نہ کر لے. اور اسرائیل بھی یہ چاہتا ہے کہ یہ جنگ نہ رکے. اور کیوں نہ رکے؟ تاکہ اس علاقے سے وہ پوری طرح فلسطینیوں کو نکالنے میں کامیاب ہو جائے. اس سارے ظلم کا, اس بربریت کا واحد مقصد یہ ہے کہ فلسطینی وہاں سے نکل جائیں. اور آپ یہ دیکھیے ابھی پچھلے ہفتے ہی اسرائیلی حکومت نے ایک فیصلہ کیا ہے کہ ویسٹ بینک میں جو سیٹلرز ہیں ان سیٹلمنٹس کو ایکسپینڈ کیا جائے گا. ایکسپینشن آف سیٹلمنٹس ان دا ویسٹ بینک. تو غزہ کی تو بات ہی چھوڑیں, وہ تو ویسٹ بینک میں بھی ایکسپینڈ کرنے جا رہا ہے. اور وہ سیٹلمنٹس ایکسپینڈ ہوتے ہوتے, جیسا کہ مجھ سے پہلے مقررین نے آپ کو بتایا, مقصد یہ ہے کہ ویسٹ بینک اور غزہ سے فلسطینیوں کو بالکل ہی نکال باہر کیا جائے, اور وہ یا تو جا کے سینائی میں, مصر میں آباد ہو جائیں, یا جارڈن میں آباد ہو جائیں, کسی اور جگہ چلے جائیں, اور یہاں سے ان کا بالکل قلعہ قمع کر دیا جائے اور ان سب علاقوں پہ اسرائیل کا قبضہ ہو جائے. تو یہ تو اس بنیادی قرارداد کے بھی خلاف ہے جو یو این جی اے نے 1948 میں پاس کی تھی, اور جس کو جو میڈم نائلہ چوہان کہہ رہی تھی اس وقت صرف 64 ممبر تھے یو این جی اے کے, لیکن اس میں بھی اکثریت نے یہ پاس کر دی, اور اس کو بنیاد بنا کے اسرائیل کا قیام عمل میں لایا گیا تھا. یعنی جو اعلان ہوا تھا قیام کا, اس میں یہ کہا گیا تھا کہ یو این جی اے کی اس قرارداد میں چونکہ یہ کہا گیا ہے, حالانکہ یو این جی اے کی قرارداد بائنڈنگ نہیں ہوتی. یہی قرارداد جب یونائٹڈ نیشنز کی سیکورٹی کونسل میں گئی تھی تو سیکورٹی کونسل نے اس پہ ایکشن کرنے سے انکار کر دیا تھا, اور وہاں پہ یہ کہا گیا تھا کہ سیکورٹی کونسل کا یہ کام نہیں ہے کہ وہ دنیا میں ریاستیں قائم کرتی پھرے, اور اس پہ کوئی فیصلہ نہیں ہوا تھا. لیکن یو این جی اے کی قرارداد کی بنیاد پہ اسرائیل کے قیام کا اعلان ہو گیا تھا, اور وہ بھی اس لیے کہ ان کے ملیٹنٹ فورس وہاں پہ موجود تھی. انہوں نے بائی فورس سب کو ایکسپیل کیا. ان کے قیام سے ایک دن پہلے برٹش آرمی نے وہاں سے اپنے وڈرول کا اعلان کیا, اور اس کے بعد اسرائیل بن گیا. تو آپ یہ دیکھیے کہ جو پوری کی پوری تاریخ ہے وہ سازشوں سے اور ملی بھگت سے بھری پڑی ہے, اور وہ آپ کو آج بھی نظر آئے گا. اب سوال یہ ہے کہ آئندہ کیا ہونا ہے. وہ بھی آپ نے بہت سی تجاویز سن لی. یونٹی کی بات آ گئی. ایس ایم ڈی اے جو ہے اسٹریٹجک میوچل ڈیفنس ایگریمنٹ کی بات آپ نے سن لی. اس سے بہرحال اور کچھ ہو نہ ہو کم از کم ایک اضافی چیز یہ ہوئی ہے کہ پاکستان کا قد بلند ہوا ہے. ہمارا سٹیچر جو ہے وہ دنیا میں کافی بڑھا ہے. اب ایک بات یہ سننے میں آ رہی ہے کہ جو مسلم فورسز ہیں ان کو غزہ میں لایا جائے تاکہ وہ وہاں پیس قائم کر سکیں. تو اگر پیس میکرز کی حیثیت سے مسلم فورسز کو وہاں لایا جائے تو یہ شاید ایک بہت ہی آئیڈیل قدم ہوگا، اور اس کی وجہ سے جو وہاں قتل و غارت ہے یہ بھی رک جائے گا، اور جو دونوں پارٹیز کے آپس میں ایک دوسرے سے اندیشے ہیں ان پہ بھی بڑی حد تک قابو پایا جا سکے گا. اور جو ہمیں یہ اندیشہ ہے کہ اس سارے فسانے میں کہیں ایسا نہ ہو کہ مسلمانوں کو بہت شدید زخم پہنچے، تو اس کا بھی کسی حد تک تدارک ہو سکے گا. اب ہوگا کیا اور کیا نہیں ہوگا یہ ہم لوگ بحیثیت ریسرچرز کے، بحیثیت تھنک ٹینک کے صرف تجزیے ہی کر سکتے ہیں. اب وہ تجزیہ کتنا صحیح ثابت ہوتا ہے یہ آنے والا وقت ہی بتائے گا. میں آپ سب کا ایک دفعہ پھر بہت شکر گزار ہوں.
اور اسی کے ساتھ ہی آج کے ہمارے سیمینار کا اختتام ہوتا ہے. میں ہمارے تمام حاضرین اور جنہوں نے ہمیں آن لائن جوائن کیا، اور اسی حوالے سے جو ہمارے خصوصی مہمان ہیں امبیسڈر نائلہ چوہان صاحبہ، امبیسڈر نصر اللہ صاحب، بریگیڈیئر سید نذیر صاحب، ڈاکٹر اظہر احمد صاحب، اور جو دیگر ہمارے احباب جنہوں نے ہمیں جوائن کیا، ان تمام لوگوں کا شکر گزار ہوں. تھینک یو سو مچ.